Hello and thank you for clicking on my video. My channel is Rumble Canada. I modify all types of CO2 and air-powered air pistols and rifles, and I modify just about everything else. So why not click that subscribe button, like, share, and give a thumbs up if you like the video. Today I'm going to give you a review on the Heckler Koch HK416 BB rifle by Umarex. Now let's see if this thing is worthy of the $200 Canadian I paid for it. And I think the best way to start off this video is by doing a chrono test. So we're going to put this thing through the test and see how it does. So I'm outside right now and it's about +4 here in Manitoba. So we're going to see how this thing does on the chrono with fresh CO2. Look at all those shiny new BBs. I'm impressed with this rifle so far. No problem holding 500 plus BBs. This is wicked. Now that I figured out how to load this rifle properly, oh, it's wicked. Loads fast. You can get 30 BBs right back in place real quick. Very impressed. Okay, I think we are full. Right to the top there. Wicked. So let's see what we get with our first set of shots. I've got some fresh CO2 in our HK. So let's see what we get. Okay guys, here we go. First shot. Yeah, I'm not liking those FPS. Around 350, 360. That's not very good. That means we're going to get a lot of BBs bouncing back. I mean, it'll be fun to shoot in the snow, as you can see, but it's not going to be fun shooting at our targets because they're going to be bouncing back. So that means it needs my thermal mod. I will do a follow-up chrono test at the end of the video, indoors with fresh CO2, so you can watch that. But for outside right now, around this temperature, it's expected. It's so much fun. Hope you're liking this shot. Let's see. How many we get in there? Still, look at nothing. So far, loading the BBs has not been a good experience. I might have to definitely modify that. So if you see it, actually, at this angle here seems to be holding them in. Okay. Did you see that? Holding it at this angle, all the BBs fell in perfectly. I hope you can see that. All the BBs fell in if you hold it like this. Okay, good to know. Look at that, right to the max. Sweet. Okay, let's try this again. Safety on. Okay, let's see if we've mastered getting these BBs in here. Okay guys, it looks like it's working. So hold it like this. Okay, figured it out, finally. Okay, this thing is awesome. I'm very impressed with this rifle so far. I must have shot well over 140 shots already, because I filled this thing up. If that's 30, 60 already, and I've already shot, I haven't swapped out the CO2. Same CO2, it's cool outside, and it's still blasting. I'm impressed so far, guys. No mods done yet, and this thing is still fun. Now, compare this, if you're going to compare this to the Crosman DPMS SBR, there's no comparison. The SBR is way better. But if you just want a plinker that you can go outside and just have some fun with, this is actually a really fun rifle. This will definitely be in my plinker bag. Let's have some more fun. I've got a bunch of targets to shoot at, so here we go again. Look at that. It's working. We're full. Perfect. Okay, so let's try and aim for that target. That's why you wear eye protection. Now I was about 30 feet away, so I was shooting a little bit low with fresh CO2, so that means I just got to look up a little bit higher on my sights there, and I think I'm going to hit this 5 all the time now. So let's try with a fresh target. Now I printed these targets off using an old laser printer, and print my own targets. Alright guys, so let's see how I did. So look at that. That's actually a really good little rifle. I'm very, very impressed. The burst speeds are really good. I've hit my target completely. It doesn't even look like I hit anything around it. Well, actually, let's take the target. Let's take this off and see what it looks like behind it. Oh yeah. So if you look, I didn't hit anywhere else on that board other than right in the center part here, right where I was aiming for. Look at that, not too bad. With 6 burst, that thing is actually a really good rifle. I'm very impressed with the HK416 now. Not bad. I'm very impressed with that. That was pretty far away. Check out my snowman here, all mashed up. That is awesome. I save all my CO2 canisters. I use them for targets, and I've got a couple other things I use them for, but what a fun day outside. What a fun day plinking. I absolutely love plinking with that rifle. Okay, so let's go finish up. Alright guys, I had an absolute blast shooting this Heckler Koch HK416 by Umarex. It is a lot of fun. It's a great BB rifle. So we're going to get into the review right now, and we're going to compare it to the Crosman DPMS because I think that is a good comparison for the price. So for the $200 value that I paid for this one here, I personally would recommend the Crosman DPMS for the price. You get a much better bang for the buck with the SBR here versus the Heckler Koch HK416. And the reason for that is if you look at it here, this one is sandwiched together and everything is molded in. So this here is not even close to the SBR. And what I mean by that is the weight and feel of the SBR is completely different. It feels like a real rifle. And even when you're pulling this charging hammer, if you listen to the charging hammer here, it sounds very toyish. Listen. Sounds very cheap, plastic, and it actually sounds like a BB rifle. Now, if we take the Crosman DPMS SBR and we do the same thing with the charging hammer, it sounds night and day. Listen. And it's a lot harder to pull back. And that's because I've got my shim mod in there. Night and day sound. And it's a lot heavier. So, this one here is sandwiched together. and you can see all the little screws here. If we took all the screws out of this, this would all come apart. Then you get to the internals. Where this one here, we can just pop out the pins and we can get to everything inside here. So for the $200 value, I would recommend the Craftsman DPMS. For a fun plinker to just put in your box because you've already got one, 2 or 3 of these, this is a good one too. It's a lot of fun, and it's actually a lot easier to load the BBs than it is on this one. Even with the 300 magazine for this, which is garbage, it always fails, breaks, leaks. This one is actually a little bit different in design. It does have internal blowback, and the charging hammer here only is needed when it's low on CO2. So when you're running low on CO2, you'll know because you'll have to bring this back and then you'll get one more shot, but then it's completely underpowered. So you'd want to change your CO2 at that point. So I'll show you also too the difference. The magazine on the SBR is a little bit different. So this one's taken apart, but this one here, when you're hitting it, the CO2 is coming through here and punching out the BBs in the magazine, where this one here is completely different, and I'll show you. It's a little bit harder to pop out, but when you get it, you'll hear it pop, and that's because this one here, when it's inserted into the rifle, will push a little pin down and the CO2 will be released and put into a chamber inside here somewhere. I'll take this apart at some point and we can look in the internals later on. But basically what this is going to do is once you slide it into here, it's going to fill up the chamber inside here, and you can probably hear it. No, but watch what happens when you take it out again. So you don't want to keep popping this in and out because you're going to be wasting your CO2. This is fresh CO2. And also the nice little thing is you get this little key, and you don't even have to worry, unlike the Craftsman DPMS here, you don't have to worry about putting one in first and then putting the second one. You can put in either one and it won't leak. I usually like to tighten them up a little bit and then puncture them once that last little bit of turns. So I always follow that little practice. But now I'll show you inside here a little bit. So if you look inside there, you can see the little nozzle that's poking through, and that pokes into the magazine here. And that's what allows the CO2 to charge up inside here and blow back the hammer back and forth and shoot our BBs out. Now, I did do a chrono test, so I'm going to show you in just a minute what kind of FPS we get out of it when we're inside. But this one here is doing the 460 as claimed by Umarex. Now, typically Umarex for me has always been, let's say it's rated at 460, you go and test it out and you're well over 460, you're like 490, even 500 sometimes. But here in Canada, what I've noticed is they're actually detuning these rifles in all different series. So for an example, I have here a 1322 pump. Now this one's taken apart and this is an older one. But if you actually look inside here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's the valve inside there. Now if you take the newer version and you look at it, here's what the valve looks like out of the pistol. And if you look carefully, the machining is not that great. It's aluminum. The hammer part of it for the valve is very thin. And you'll also notice that little pinhole. That pinhole is a release valve. So Canada has actually been secretly putting release valves into our rifles to detune them. So here's an older version of the same valve. Here they are here. But this one is made out of brass. Now this one is probably about 30 years old, and you can see the difference in materials. Way heavier, much better built, no release valves, and look at the machining on it. Perfect. Nice nozzle, not off a little bit. It's brass, much better part. And that's what I've noticed with these rifles is they've been detuning them, which is a little bit silly because if you noticed in the video, but every single one of my BBs was bouncing back. I actually took a couple off the face and in the legs at 30 feet away because they're not going into the target. They're bouncing off the target. So when I was shooting at some of the Coke bottles, they're just bouncing. Tin cans, yes, they'll puncture through, but when you're going and shooting at bottles and they're just bouncing back, it does get a little dangerous and you have to wear eye protection no matter what because you will shoot your eye. So I'll get into this at some point and have a look inside to see if it's been detuned, but Yeah, this is out of a new, so if you go buy yourself a 1322 in here in Canada, you're going to get a release valve. Even the 2240s, which is this one here. Now this one's been modified, of course, and this one does 500 FPS and a 0.22. So this valve here is stock and it works great, no issues. And this one out of the box, so the 2240 back in the day when you went and bought it, it would easily do 495 feet per second. Now they're below 460, and if you're lucky, 400 FPS. So they've all been detuned. And all you'd have to do really is just plug that valve, and then this will be back up into normal operating pressure. What a difference. So I'll get into this after, but I'm going to go and set up the Chrono. So let's go and see what the Chrono shows us for FPS in a warm environment. So I've got my Chrono all set up here. I'm ready to go. I'm about to put some fresh CO2 inside here. So these are some of the new canisters that have come out from Crosman. I'm in my shop and it's about plus 23, and I've just put the fresh CO2 into the magazine, and we're going to see how it performs. So let's see what we get on the Chrono inside when it's warmed up. Okay, so I am all set up here. Let's see what we get on the Chrono with our first shot. Okay, here we go. Okay, so inside temperatures seem to be a little bit better. We've got a 117 there, and that's because I think it was picking up some of the CO2. But we're all over 400 FPS, but we're still below 500 FPS. Now, typically, Umarex never lets me down. They're always usually underrated, but it looks like this one's probably detuned because they've been doing that a lot here in Canada. So we might have to take this one apart and have a look inside, but that's what we're getting. We're getting over 400. So this is shooting probably right around what the Crosman DPMS is. So there you have it. So outside we were only getting about 360 to 330 FPS. Inside, where it was a lot warmer, we're getting over 400 FPS, averaging about 415 to 430-ish. So it's gone up, but it looks like it's not doing what it's advertised. It did the first shot at around 460. Now I'm going to do a whole bunch of shots here just to see what we kind of get. And there we go. So at about 45 BBs with fresh CO2, we're dropping down to below 400 FPS. And that was kind of expected because that's typically what happens with these rifles. So that means we need to regulate the temperature on that CO2 and keep it nice and warm and not let it cool off, and keep our shots more consistent instead of falling down below 400 FPS. So you know what that means, right? It needs my thermal mod. And that's what I'll be doing first on this HK416, so watch for that mod. Alright guys, I hope you liked the review on this HK416. Again, it's a nice rifle, and it is a great plinker. Now if you're looking to add something to your collection, I'd recommend it. But if you're looking to buy maybe one of your first rifles or a second or third rifle, I would highly recommend the Crosman DPMS SBR over the HK416. Just simply because for the $200 value, you get way more from this one versus this one. But this one should be reliable and give you plenty of fun for many years. All right, guys, I hope you liked that video. Share, like, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to go back to having some fun with this rifle, so I'm going to go out and plink some more. All right, guys, thanks for watching my video.